William. I might be wrong again, but there you go.
Brendan Watkins is called in, Chief Executive of the Swimming Pools and Spa Association. Hello, Brendan.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
Okay, what did you want to say? What was your point?
Look, I just wanted to say I think you've been led down the garden path by the Minister yesterday, the change to the regulations.
Yeah.
That'd be unusual. Has been...
Yes.
Look, it has been the case for the last 20 years that every pool and spa in the state has to be fenced. That is the case. The only evidence that exists that will create a safer outcome for toddlers is mandatory barrier inspections. The only evidence that exists is coming out of Western Australia and coming out of Queensland. It's 50 and 80% reduction in fatalities.
Just before you go into
the Minister's not doing that.
Explain this fencing thing. He's saying previously, the way I understand it, he's saying you could use a house as a barrier.
Correct.
Previously, and if the door was properly returning and everything else, and the lock's too high, that was fine. What he's saying is I think he's saying to me is that's no longer acceptable. You have to have isolation and fencing. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. That's what they're doing.
Well, that's a change.
2010 that came in, was it? Was that 2010?
That's correct.
Yeah.
May 2010.
Yeah, he's going private.
Yeah. However, there is no evidence that there are greater safety outcomes with four-sided barriers or the house being used as part of the barrier.
So
the only evidence that exists is mandatory barrier inspection.
So we need
every 3 years or every 4 years. The problem we've got is a maintenance problem.
Well, that makes sense. Mandatory barrier inspections and a register?
Of course. The government doesn't know where the pools are. There's a couple of 100,000 of pools and spas in the state. So the first step, obviously, is to get that register. The second is a course for people to get out there and do the inspections, and every 3 or 4 years to go out, inspect the pools and ensure they're safe.
Well, the minister did. Sorry, Tony.
The
minister did tell me he was considering mandatory pool inspections and considering a registry.
And this is what, Neil, absolutely infuriates me.
Yes.
Government have been considering for a decade and not acting.
Would it be
only evidence that exists to save toddlers, to keep them safe around pools, the only evidence empirically tested that exists is every 3 or 4 years going out and checking the barrier. Our members and surveys of councils tell us that the vast majority of pool and spa barriers aren't maintained. It's a maintenance issue.
Brendan, can you tell me, pool builders, can you make it compulsory for pool builders themselves to first get the permit to say that is right and that it satisfies what is needed for pool safety? Is something that compulsory or isn't it?
The pool builders hand the swimming pools over to consumers in a safe and compliant state. The building surveyor inspects the pool or the spa the day that the builder leaves the site, and it's signed off as being safe. So the building surveyor or a council inspector have that legal responsibility, and every single pool and spa in the state, when handed over, is safe. The issue is about maintenance.
And what do you say?
The government's doing nothing to address that.
They do say they're consulting and considering it. So
they have been for a decade.
Oh, yeah, here we consult.
We've got to lobby them again on it. So what are you saying the reduction in deaths was in Western Australia and Queensland? In
Queensland, 50%, and that's over the last 7 or 8 years. In Western Australia, since 1992, it's 80% reduction.
By improving maintenance?
Yes, mandatory barrier inspections every 3 years or 4 years, going out, ensuring the barrier is compliant.
What about the government helping to pay for it?
Look, whoever pays for it, I think, is secondary.
What would it cost, though?
If the discussion... No. Well, no, look, if people maintain their barrier, then the only cost is the inspection. So if people ensure, and essentially the issue is around the gates. The gates need to line up, they need to return, and they need to lock. And most people can do that. There's a lot of information available to assist consumers on how to maintain their barriers. If people maintain their barriers, it will only be the cost of an inspection, and that will be somewhere between $100 and $300.
All right. Brendan, thank you very much. Brendan Watkins, Chief Executive, Swimming Pool Spa Association.